All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachak Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And I want to go into this lesson here entitled The Greatest God Will Be Active Once Again. And let me first see if I can pull up some of these precepts on here. Real quick. Yeah, real quick. Let's see. Yeah, we'll start with this one right here. Yeah, there you go. Let's go ahead. There you go. There you go. All right. And yeah, this is basically just going into the things that we're about to witness, right? How about show me how should I do once again, right? And this is, even going back to the time of ancient Egypt, right? Prior to the Lord making his name feared and reverenced in the earth again, remember that you had a select group, a few that knew and understood the power of the Lord and how the Lord works and the fear of the Lord, right? Knowing that he was the one that brought the flood, right? Or as they call it, the deluge during the time of Noah. However, even during the time of Pharaoh, when Moses said to him, right, that the Lord wants him to let us go, what did he say? He said, "Who is the Lord Yahweh that I should work? I should basically take heed to your words." And that is because one, the Lord had raised him up and puffed him up, but also the spirit of the Lord was semi-dormant in that time. And he was about to work a work in that time that would basically reign all the way up until now. And that is why he had that set up that way. So when you look at the world today, it's a similar setup that the Lord has done, right? He has raised up a particular nation of people and infected them with a level of pride that shouldn't even be legal, but yet they're infected with it. And also the actual divine presence of the Lord is really only truly believed and known amongst a few, just like back then. And that is because the Lord is now about to, as I titled it, be active once again. And we seldom see this because once the Lord, he doesn't need to do it all the time, right? But when he does get active, it's etched in history for all eternity. So I'm gonna go through a few precepts here, but ultimately this goes into the point of us having that defense, because when the Lord is active, it's gonna be to, one, bring judgment upon this place, but also to defend, right, those that are of his elect. And when you look throughout the patterns of the Lord's actions in the past, it's usually when he needs to do something, right? When either he needs to deliver by someone or bring judgment, it's when you would see the Lord get really active again, depending on the severity or intensity of what he's about to do. So this is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 126. It is time for thee, Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law, right? And I believe Aharon went into that. I was listening to one of the videos he did. He went into the word work. I think it might have been this precept. And let's take a look here. Right, there you go. Went into the different words here: to accomplish, to fashion, to act with effect, right? So it's time for and that's how the Lord works, right? The Heavenly Father works in signs and effects, because that is what people see and believe. Right now he's working, but through men, through speaking, but soon the Lord is going to be working with signs and effects, right? And the Lord is a power. So everything he does is powerful. Like, he does use certain means where it doesn't seem that way, but the effect that those means have are powerful. Like right now, the Lord has us speaking and teaching, but most of the world doesn't see that as a powerful thing. However, the actual effect that that's having is powerful. Like when you go back to the time of even the New Testament era, right, during the gospel being preached, or even back during the time of the Old Testament, when these prophets the Lord sent to go and prophesy were there prophesying to the people around them, it didn't seem like a powerful thing. Like Jeremiah was, he wasn't taken seriously in the beginning because he was young. But we have the book of Jeremiah today, which is, a part of a compilation of one of the most widely or mass printed, mass produced books, right, in the Bible. And we see all the, like, how many times do we reference precepts in the book of Jeremiah, right? The things that were revealed to him and all of these things. So it has a very powerful effect, but majority of the world don't see it as such, especially while it's happening. But don't be deceived. Everything the Lord does has a purpose and a very powerful effect. It says to be done, to be produced. So it is time for the Lord to work. Why? Let's go back to the precept. It says here, for they have made void thy law, right? And when you look in the world and today, the law, the precepts, the knowledge, the bulk of what consists of a pious and society, a holy society, is absent from this world. And so the Lord needs to work just like he did in the past. When one nation, it says he taketh down one nation and sets up another. Why? What was the reason for the Lord taking down one nation? Well, they made void his law, right? They were doing all manner of wickedness. And so he got active, and before they knew it, they were out of there. So we're now in a time where the Lord is about to work. He is working, but it's going to turn up, because this is going to be one of the greatest works the Lord has ever done, leading up into the kingdom. All right, because this is that transition. So now let's go to the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17. And keeping in mind that as the Lord works, because of how powerful he is, it's going to leave a very devastating effect, a very, very devastating and massive and unforgettable effect on the world when the Lord really kicks this thing into full gear. Like right now, we believe that, the works of the Lord are a very powerful thing, right? To be able to understand the scriptures, to be able to teach, to have the Spirit of the Lord go out and people to hear it and to believe it and to wake up. That's a very powerful thing. But we don't even know to what extent this work that we're doing is going, right? We don't even know how much of an effect it's having, because the Lord has purposely kept it that way. But the time is coming very soon where that will not be the case. Like, think about it. During the time of Peter and John and James, Peter was a fisherman, right? And when the Lord called them and they were following him and serving him, in their time, they probably weren't imagining it to be as big as it would be now, right? As being the apostles and basically going about and establishing churches and then doing all of those things. At the very beginning, they were disciples and they were following the Messiah because they believed he was the Messiah, but it didn't instantly dawn upon them that what they were being really prepared for. Remember, the Lord told them that he would make them fishers of men. And then the Lord said that they would sit upon 12 thrones judging the tribes of Israel. To go from a fisherman to that, sheesh. Talk about a pay raise. So in this time, right, as the Lord has prepared all of these things to take place, we have a defense, right? Because our God is the one true living God, and we have a defense. And all throughout history, the Lord has done that. The Lord is a man of war. So when he says that he's going to fight for us, that's literal. He's actually going to fight for us. He's going to defend us. Okay, the Lord, people, too much do people paint this weak and flamboyant image of the Lord, and it's because of those zesty ass Renaissance pictures that were painted. So when they think of God, like if I was to go online and type in God, you're gonna see things like this. See, this is very zesty. Okay, this is very I don't even know what other word to use here. It's very bad. Okay. They got him looking like a, I don't even know, man. That's just crazy work. You know, like this is the type of shit that people think of. They think of an old man with like a long white beard and like Edomite looking hair, just like that. When they think of God, that's what they think of. And that's why when they like this, so when they try to depict anything related to the Most High, it's always like some weak old man who's like just, you know, he's powerful because he's God, but he's really just like that. Listen, bro, that's you don't earn the title of man of war looking like that. And if you think about it, right, like the Most High is a man of war. His son is also a man of war. We are a nation of warriors. Of all the images he would pick, I mean, look at the the um the natural stature of the Israelite man. When you go to, you know, places where they're not consuming so much bad foods like here in America, and they just like naturally grow. Jake has a natural, like they like today they'll say they have naturally good genetics, right? So you can literally just be living your life because in certain areas, like majority of the crafts and the work that Jake do involves like hands-on things, right? Building things, you know, like you do all those kinds of things. So they have a naturally our bodies are built, right? As opposed to like Edomites or Elamites. The Elamites are a perfect example of the opposite. You know, Elamites don't have a natural build. All right. They just like gummy worms and shit. But the point is, if we're made in the Lord's image and the natural stature of Jake, you know, especially even if you go into bodybuilding, the natural stature of Jake always looks better than that of the heathens. Why the hell would the Most High's body look like this? This shit doesn't make sense. Okay. That's not a God of war. So in any like for example, they call Kratos the God of War, right? So if we look up here, Kratos from God of War, they don't have Kratos looking like a soft, weak person because that doesn't fit the theme of a God of War, right? If you type in God of War, you're not expecting to see somebody who got a big ass beer belly and, you know, droopy, saggy tits. Like that's not what you're expecting to see, right? Yeah, you're not expecting to see this. Okay. So in any case, let's go back. And the point that I was making is the God that we serve is a God of war. And we're coming into a time of a major war that he has set up. So he is going to defend us. And that is the best defense anybody can have. Because contrary to what people may think, we are not going to be the hunted in this war. We're not going to be the prey in this war. Okay. The God that we serve, and even the heathens knew this going back into ancient Israel, they would always say, look, you just leave them alone, man. Leave them alone. Because what their God that fights for them, they don't fight for themselves. They have a divine power that fights for them, and you will not win against that. This is Second Chronicles 20:17. It says, ye shall not need to fight this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you. And it's going to be the same in this time because we're not right now, at least, designed, right? In the sense that we don't have the physical capability to go and fight against super soldiers, unmanned drones, you know, and things of that nature. These you remember Esau's blessing is a sword. And they have special units that they train constantly in these different arts using these different weapons to go in and execute, you know, different missions. You, on the other hand, are happy that you mentioned 225, but 225 does not equal hand-to-hand combat. It does not equal knowing how to use a knife. It does not equal knowing how to use a gun. It does not equal knowing how to use a grenade or knowing how to, you know, move undetected. It doesn't equal any of that, right? So it may just equal, you know, a decent looking physique, but that's about it. So the point is, we're gonna need the Lord to fight for us, because the adversary is coming with great power, but the power that the Lord has is greater, and that's why we depend on our God. And you deviate from that when you think that, oh well, if the adversary knows how to, shoot a gun, let me go to the gun range and learn how to shoot a gun. But that's not your power, that's not your blessing, that's not your element. They say you're in your element. Our element is not the carnal way. Our element is spiritual, because we're the only ones that can really tap into that. Esau can't, the other nations can't. And as a matter of fact, even in this time, a good portion of our people can't. So it's really a very few people that, very few spirits that are still able to tap into our actual element, which is the Holy Spirit, to be able to have access to our God. And those that use that and rely on that are gonna be able to tap into that great power. Okay, but we're getting ready to see once again the greatest God be active once again, and that means a lot. It says here, and see the salvation of the Lord Yahweh with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord Yahweh will be with you. And as time goes on, you'll start to see that right now you're seeing new levels of technology, right? Militarily, through AI advancements, robotics, right? Drones, surveillance. You're starting to see a lot of this. But as you see more and more of that, you also start to see the intent right behind this kind of technology, i.e., when you start to see it being used for things that are more on the draconian side of things, right? Then it's like, that's a problem. That's where the fear comes upon a lot more people, right? Yeah, it's cool to see AI powered robot kickboxing in a ring, right? Or running full speed on a track, or with a gun in his hand in a Boston Dynamics video, doing some crazy Mission Impossible moves, right? That's one thing. But then it's not so cool when it's doing that in the city, shooting people and shit, right? Or here it is, the police arrive and you don't see any humans, you just see these RoboCops running up into a building, So then that's different. That's when the more and more fear starts to set into the people, because they're like, yo, this really advanced technology is now a threat, like a very dangerous threat. Because you can't try to negotiate with that. It's programmed a certain way. Humans, you have that emotion, they might hesitate a little bit, but that's not the case with this demonic technology that Esau is coming with. So as it says, we're not to fear or be dismayed, because the Lord is going to be with us, right? The Lord is going to be the one fighting for us in this time. And he's going to bless us with power, okay, and protection from the divine. And nothing is more superior than that. See? Yeah, that's right. Like the brother said, yeah, like Akir knew. Shit, he gave him the whole detail. Damn near knew more about Israel's history than Israelites today. Gave him the whole rundown. Said, listen, man, you don't mess with these people. Okay, trust and believe. We know, because the Ammonites were neighbors of Israel. Okay, so they're like, yeah, whatever goes on down there, we know. There's a good precept here. Psalms 118 and 6, the Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do unto me? And it's very important to actually understand a precept like this, because when it says the Lord is on your side, right? What can man do unto me? How do I even think of it? Like, if you were, and this might be a very light example, but if you were an actor, right, in a movie, and the director was your best friend, or even a TV show. There are certain TV shows that the actors, when they read their script, because they get a script, sometimes they don't know what's about to happen in the next episode. So there are some actors that get shocked when they find out in the next episode their character dies. You get written off. But if you are friends with the director, or you're the director's favorite, or you're a very popular character, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. The director cannot write you out. He can't, you won't not, that nothing is going to happen to you in the movie or in the show, because the director is the one who's literally writing the story. He is creating the adversaries. He's creating the, like, Thanos didn't exist until somebody thought, let me create a character like Thanos to be a villain. And he's going to be a villain in this universe or in this multiverse, and he's going to come against this and do that. That all those things that make these enemies feared are created, okay, for that purpose. So they don't spawn out of nowhere, right? Like, you know, the villain, Doc Ock, and all these different heinous villains and evil demons, they don't spawn out of nowhere. Even in what's that, Game of Thrones? So yeah, some pretty heinous criminals in there. They didn't spawn out of nowhere. The writer wrote them into existence for the purpose of making the story good, right? And the writer also controls how those villains affect the story, to what extent they can go. You know, how do they, you know, can they harm the protagonist in the story? So the writer is the one who's determining that. Now, if the writer says, I'm gonna kill off this person, then that's what happens. But if he says, no, this person can't die, they need to survive all the way to the end, and then that's what happens. So now, when you look at that and you understand that your real life that you're living in is a story that the Lord wrote, you know, because that's quite literally what it is. He is the director, he is the creator. Then you understand that when it says the Lord is on my side, you really cannot fear, right? What man can do unto me, because in order for man to do something to you, the Lord has to write that into existence. He has to write that as part of your story. It's not already like something that's just going to be, oh yeah, you know, just randomly, you know, Esau's just going to do this. No, the Lord had to put that in the story, that Esau ends up doing this, right? And Esau ends up doing that. So the one in control is the one that we serve. That's the point. The one in control is the one that we serve. And when I say in control, I mean in control of everything. The bad guys and the good guys. And the extras, and you know, in the background somewhere. So if the one in control is on your side and has already confirmed for you that you're going to be good, 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter said that, right? Don't fear. Matter of fact, it's even here, Exodus 14 and 13. So we don't have to fear, because the Lord is on our side. Nobody, that's actually literal. Nobody can actually harm us because the Lord is on our side. Because he's the one who controls who harms who. And if he says, you good, you good. End of story. All right? End of story. Yep. Psalms 118:7. The Lord taketh my part with them that help me. Therefore shall I see my desire upon them that hate me. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to go from a situation that looks dire, you know, it looks like you're in trouble, to now it's like you're in the best possible situation. You know, like even when you're watching a fight and it may look like somebody is, you know, they're down, all it takes is one good counter, and they can go from having their back against the ropes to having knocked out the enemy or their opponent. So this is Exodus 14 and 13. Then Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Damn, you don't even got to do anything. Just stand still. Just watch. Just let the Lord do his thing. That's all you got to do. Which he will shew you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Okay? And that Lord is going to replicate that on a higher level. See, back then, the Egyptians came against us with chariots and horsemen and staves and spears and swords and shields and bucklers. This time, they're coming with, you know, troops and laser weapons and guns and night vision goggles and damn near freaking AI technology. But back then, what did the Lord do? He fought first with an even... The technology the Egyptians had back then stood no chance against the Lord. And the ones they have now still don't stand a chance against the Lord. Okay? So our defense is mightier than anything in all of existence. We're good. Okay, we're good. We literally just have to wait. Like we can actually just watch the movie play out, even though we're in it and we're living it. We can just watch it play out. It says, "The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." See, so we don't need to fret or stress. Sometimes you just let it play out, because at the end of it all, it's going to be for our benefit anyway. Okay, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. And the reason why you'll see things like be still, right? Stand ye still, fear not. The majority of the work isn't in your physical actions, it's in what's happening in the spirit, right? The majority of the work is done in you exercising your faith. And if you're able to do that very well, you don't need to physically do anything, right? You just need to believe that the Lord is going to take care of you. You need to believe in the Lord. And if you can put in that spiritual work, you don't got to physically do anything. Okay, it says, I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge, Selah. Because he's not anybody else's refuge but ours. And he is going to defend. So who's he going to defend? All right, so we believe that the Lord is, and these are considered miracles because they don't usually happen, right? They don't usually happen just on a regular, especially now that it's been so long. It's been thousands of years since, a worldwide level of divine power of the Lord was shown on the earth, like it was back during the time of the apostles, or even before that. It's been so long. So the shock value the Lord has had that build up so much that when he finally works, or when he finally gets active in both bringing judgment and deliverance, once again, it's going to be something that is going to overshadow any other time in all of history. And that's why it's going to be a time like never before. So yeah, it will be scary. It'll be very scary. I mean, I'm pretty sure Israelites were scared when they saw, even though it was for their good, when they saw the Red Sea being parted, that was a scary thing. But they had to have faith and walk. Imagine you walking, because those walls cast a shadow. Okay, so imagine you just walking and you just like, yo, damn, them, like, that's crazy. That's crazy. When who has ever, been able to say that they experienced something like that? Imagine you're literally walking on dry ground, and on your right is a giant wall of water, and on your left is a giant wall. You're literally walking in a miracle as it's happening. And the Lord did that for us. So he did all that. And in this time, he's just gonna be like, yeah, nah, y'all on your own. That's not the Lord changes not. Okay. Now an example here I have pulled up is dealing with Heliodorus. And there are many examples of the Lord getting active to defend his people. But this is just one that came to mind first. So I pulled it up. And in here, if you haven't read it, I recommend going to read it. This is 2nd Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. But this is going into Heliodorus, which came to the temple to take our, the gold and silver and so on and so forth, basically forcefully from the treasury, because he heard that there was, an extreme amount of money in there. So he was going to go take it to the king. And upon us crying out unto the Lord, this is what the Lord did. Okay, this is 2nd Maccabees chapter 3, verse 14. I'll just read through it till we hit some of the key points. He says, so at that day which he appointed, he entered in to order this matter. Wherefore there was no small agony throughout the whole city, meaning that there's a lot of distress going on. But the priests, prostrating themselves before the altar in their priest vestments, called unto heaven, right, unto him that made a law concerning things given to be kept, that should be that they should safely be preserved for such as had committed them to be kept. See that? So what did they do? Did the high priest say, hold on, and run into the temple, pull out a giant mobile phone, a landline, and call 911? 911, we have an emergency. There's a heathen in here trying to get in the temple. No. It says what? They called onto heaven. So they called unto the Lord. And verse 16, then whoso had looked the high priest in the face, it would have wounded his heart, meaning he would have felt bad, seeing it, how much stress he was in, for his countenance and the changing of his color, which is talking about his appearance, declared the inward agony of his mind. You know, when you look at somebody and you can see visible stress on them, that's like, and that shows you just how, what's going on in their mind, how stressed out they are. For the man was so compassed with fear and horror of the body, that it was manifest to them that looked upon him what sorrow he had now in his heart. Others ran flocking out of their houses to the general supplication, because the place was like to come into contempt. So you had people running out, praying, crying unto the Lord, afraid of what Heliodorus was about to do. And the women girt with sackcloth under their breasts abounded in the streets, and the virgins that were kept in ran, some to the gates, some to the walls, and others looked out of the windows. And all holding their hands toward heaven made supplication. So all of them were all praying unto the Lord, crying unto the Lord. Now, why would they do this? Why would we be doing this back then if we didn't believe that worked? And why would we believe that it worked? Because the Lord constantly came through for us. Then it would have pitied a man to see the falling down of the multitude of all sorts, and the fear of the high priest being in such an agony. They then called upon the Almighty Lord to keep the things committed of trust safe, sure for those that had committed them, right? So basically to prevent Heliodorus from taking the things of the treasury. Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed. Now, as he was there present himself with his guard about the treasury, the Lord of spirits and the Prince of all power caused a great apparition, which is a spirit, so that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of God, and fainted, and were sore afraid. So they came in there with their armor, with their swords, with all that. And when they saw that spirit the Lord manifested, they almost gave up their spirits, right? And they immediately, hold on. It says they were afraid. Now, look at this. The spirits didn't even do anything to them yet. It just appeared. And fear was enough to stop these men from going any further. So do you see, when we talk about the power of the Lord, the greatest God, before he even takes action, his presence alone can shock somebody, back into the spirit world. Like, people can be so afraid that they don't like that. People forget, like, fear in itself is controlling. It says, for there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider upon him, and adorned with a very fair covering. And he ran fiercely and smote at Heliodorus with his forefeet. Imagine that. You had out of nowhere, you just see a horse with a rider manifest, and he's coming at you full speed. And you just get that kick, Spartan kick off of a horse. Shit. Damn. And it seemed that he that sat upon the horse had a complete harness of gold, because he came for war, because he was sent by the God of war. Moreover, so it wasn't just one. He said he came with backup too, right? It says here, moreover, 2 other young men appeared before him, notable in strength. And I always make a point to emphasize this. Look, when something is notable, it's noticeable. You can tell, right? And in strength, how do you see strength? When they say somebody's a strong man, or when they say, oh, this person is strong, if you've never seen them use their strength, how can you tell by looking at somebody that they're strong? You see the shoulders, you see the chest, you see the biceps, you see the veins on their hands, you see their stature, and you say, yeah, he's strong. So for it to describe them visibly, that they were notable in strength, Heliodorus was cooked. And I'm pretty sure he thought the same thing. It says here, excellent in beauty and comely in apparel, who stood by him on either side. So, like today when you're getting jumped, yeah, that's what he was about to experience. He got that kick, he got right to his chest, got a taste of that, coughed up some blood, said, yeah, it's over. Try to get up, and on his left and on his right, one of them put his hands on his shoulder. He said, "Listen, bro, you're gonna be here for a while. So just look, just don't even, don't, because your men, they're not coming to help you. All right." So it says here they appeared on both sides, and you can imagine him, their tail tucked, ears down, looking left and right. And these angels ain't gonna be freaking 4 feet tall. These tall, big, strong, brolic men, and they letting you know, yeah, what's about to go down. Okay. And so just exactly, and they came for a purpose. So let's see what happens, because people think that when spirits come down, they only come down to scare you. That's because I mean, for the most part, that's what they see, in like some of these old scary movies. Like the witch looks like a nun, but she just appears in the paintings. Like you'll be walking and then you turn around and she's right there, and she'll just chase you flying through the air and shit. And you just keep running and she's chasing you. You just keep running, she's chasing you. No, 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 no. Them angels ain't come here just for show. So it says here, they stood on either side, right, on his left and his right, and scourged him continually. When you getting scourged, you getting beat. All right, let me type in here the word scourge. Scourge definition. All right. It says a scourge. No, not scourge. Scourged. Scourge is the past tense and past participle of the verb scourge, meaning to whip severely or to cause, right? Or to cause great suffering and pain. Listen, when you're suffering and in pain, that's one thing. To be in great suffering and pain, that's a whole other thing. Okay, meaning and usage, to whip or flog, that's cool. To afflict or devastate. You see that? To cause severe and widespread trouble. Widespread is crazy. Widespread trouble, ruin, or distress to a place or group, i.e., being scorched by famine or disease, except the place here was Heliodorus' vessel. All right, so he had widespread trouble being caused in his members. It says here they scourged him continually, right? Widespread trouble and ruin happening to him continually. That's like today when somebody's getting jumped. You notice they don't stop. They just keep on going, whipping his ass, whipping. At this point, he's probably on the floor, getting kicked, getting hit. And like angels are very, like, look at when the angel wrestled with Jacob, right? He knew just what to do. I mean, obviously Jacob was strong, but he was able to, dislocate his hip or whatnot with a hit. So he knew what parts, like the angels are well versed in that. Right? Like, for example, your trouble in thy members is as yeah. They know exactly what parts they're like. You be watching Batman, right? And Batman, he's fighting his enemy and he'll just like step to the side and hit him in the back of his neck at a pressure point somewhere, and the person just is knocked out. So the angels know exactly what parts to hit you, and they know which parts hurt the most. So if you getting hit or kicked, like if you fighting, let's say it's boxing, and you get punched in your liver, you're going down, okay? And it doesn't even have to be a heavy punch. So imagine getting kicked in your liver, you know what I'm saying? You're probably getting your shins kicked, your kneecaps bruised. Hey, it says he was getting scourged continually. That's a scary thing, because you can't appeal to the human element of angels because they're not humans. So humans, you feeling, oh man, I feel bad for him. Oh, yo, chill. That's what you see in those videos, right? Yo, chill, bro, chill, yo, chill. He's bleeding, yo, chill. No. Them angels ain't coming here to hear you say chill. And what Israelite would have been over there telling them to chill? No, everybody just watching, including Heliodorus' men, hoping them angels don't turn back and look at him and say, you next. So he's just there getting beat continually. And this was bad because it's going to tell you some more. It says, and gave him many sore stripes. So, hey, he was in. He got that work, and he remembered that. Okay. In verse 27, it says, and Heliodorus fell suddenly onto the ground and was compassed with great darkness. They beat his ass till everything went dark. Okay. And this ain't the kind where you curl up in a ball and you cover your head and shit, and they just kicking you and you blocking you. No. Grab the hand, uncover the head, just beat this nigga, eyeballs all puffed up, lips looking like he got Botox and shit. He was hurt. Okay. But this is the power of the Lord. When he came there, he came with the carts and he came with his soldiers, and he's thinking he has the upper hand. And now he's here, as it says, on the ground with great darkness compassed about him. It says, but they that were with him took him up and put him into a litter. So they eventually they slowly came there, dragged his ass, and put him back into the cart. Now, why didn't they jump in to try and defend him? They came there with him. But remember, the verses above, it says that they were afraid. Even just seeing the angels, they were afraid. So now seeing the angels beat his ass, their commander's ass continually, that's all right. And that's why in 2nd Esdras it says they were afraid and yet durst fight, because the Lord has to put a spirit on them in this time to go up and fight. Because they're going to fear just seeing the appearance of Yahushai and the heavenly hosts, let alone going to fight him. Okay. It says, thus him that lately came with a great train and with all his guard into the said treasury, they carried out, being unable to help himself with his weapons. And this is a very key part right here. He wasn't able to help himself with his weapons. He came there with sword and spear and shield, and his men, they came armed. And what did those arms do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They didn't even have the courage to reach for his sword. They said, don't even do that. You already gonna get a very bad ass whooping. Don't even try that. What are you gonna do pulling up a sword on an angel? It says here, and manifestly they acknowledged the power of God. And this is a recurring pattern. Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged the power of God. Darius, Cyrus, Antiochus Epiphanes, okay, acknowledged the power of God. And you know how they all did it? Well, most of them through judgment. Because the scriptures say the Lord is known through the judgment that he executed. So when the Lord, and this right here was just the Lord sending his angels down. This time when the Lord gets active, it is going to be etched in history forever. Okay? The world will acknowledge the power of God. And all of a sudden, those that seem like the hunters will become the hunted. It says, for he by the hand of God was cast down and lay speechless without all hope of life. So he was pretty much about to die. You know, when they say you beat somebody to the point of death, visualize this. This isn't a PG-13 movie where they'll just like, you'll hear the sounds and then they'll just like lift the camera up to the sky and you'll just hear, oh shit, please. And then next thing you know, they cut the scene, and then the next scene, he's in the hospital getting his wounds treated. No, he was getting beat physically. So that means his face is cut, you know, his eyes are swollen. He's actually bleeding. You know, he has bruises, probably broken ribs. Okay. Angel might have DDT'd him, threw him up, RKO'd his ass. Tombstone, Power Driver, Pedigree, all that shit, you know, Sweet Chin Music and all that. And he's physically, he's going through this. Okay. So it was an actual, like a bloody beating, a beat down, you know, in the sight of everybody else. That's why it says that without all hope of life. So they beat him almost to the point of death where he was about to die. Now, the angels could have done this in a very, like, the Lord could have snapped his finger. He could have struck him with lightning. He could have just had him drop down and be paralyzed, but he was made a good example of, you know, and he himself would remember this when he would return back to Seleucus, right? But also those that are around to know that you don't come and mess with the people of the Lord. And this time he was coming to take the funds out of the treasury. In our time now, they're coming for us to harm us. What do you think the Lord is going to do then? It says, but they praised the Lord that had miraculously honored his own place. For the temple, which a little afore was full of fear and trouble, just a few, you know, depending on how long they would beat him for, but just some time before, everybody was afraid. The high priest was stressed, so stressed you could see it on his face. And now look at that. When the Almighty Lord appeared, was filled with joy and gladness, because the Lord literally appeared on our behalf. And we didn't have to do anything. So you want to see an example of stand still and see how the Lord will fight for you? This is an example. We didn't have to do anything. The Lord sent his angels down, and they physically defended Israel in this time with ease. Then straightways, certain of Heliodorus' friends prayed Onias. So immediately, they went and prayed to Onias. They didn't pray to Onias, but they begged him that he would call upon the Most High to grant him his life, who lay ready to give up the ghost. So Heliodorus was taking his last breath at that point, and they were begging Onias to pray to the Lord to basically, have mercy so that Heliodorus doesn't die, or else he was basically on his way out. So the high priest, suspecting lest the king should misconceive that some treachery had been done to Heliodorus by the Jews, offered a sacrifice for the health of the man. Which even so, if the king came down, he would have learned a lesson too. All right, but the high priest Onias did the wiser thing here, right? Which was, the immediate threat has been neutralized, and so there's no need to go and call for more. And so he ends up praying for him, and the Lord has mercy. And then now listen to this. Now, as the high priest was making an atonement, right? Because it says that he offered a sacrifice. You don't snap your fingers and all of a sudden the sacrifice is just boom, ready to go. No, it's a process. You got to get the animal, you got to kill it, you got to drain the blood, you got to do the actual process and then offer it. So while he was doing that, the same young men in the same clothing appeared and stood beside Heliodorus. So they came back to Heliodorus. And at this point, he's probably traumatized beyond traumatized. And he's like, shit. And this is what they said. Give Onias the high priest great thanks. You better thank him with all your life. In so much as for his sake, the Lord hath granted thee life. See that? Because if he hadn't prayed, it's for him, because he's praying to the Lord that you're going to live. Because if not, it says, and seeing that thou hast been scourged from heaven. So they told him this. The angels that beat him not half to death, almost to death, as the saying goes, within an inch of your life. They said this to him. They said, thank Onias greatly. You owe him your life. Okay? Because for his sake, the Lord has granted you to live. And you see how divine of an ass whooping we just gave you? Go and declare that unto all men, the mighty power of God, lest anybody else gets stupid and wants to act dumb. You can be a witness to deter them, lest they come and find out, like you did. And when they had spoken these words, they appeared no more. So they disappeared. He's not sleeping for a week or two. So Heliodorus, after he had offered sacrifice unto the Lord, made great vows unto him that saved his life, and saluted Onias, and returned with his host to the king, and testified he to all men the works of the great God, which he had seen with his eyes. And this is one example, okay? One example of the Lord using divine intervention, being a great defense unto us. And the Lord has so many ways of doing it that it's like he can just be creative with it. All right, this time, how should I do it? Maybe I send an angel down, or maybe I do this. Like he has so many different ways to protect and defend us. And here it is, you stressed out worrying about what? Verse 37, and when the king, this should say asked. When the king asked Heliodorus who might be a fit man to be sent yet once again to Jerusalem. See, the king didn't understand what Heliodorus had just gone through, right? So Heliodorus comes back, and the king is saying, okay, so who do you think is best to send there again? And he said, if thou hast any enemy or traitor, send him thither, and thou shalt receive him well scourged. So if somebody's caused you any trouble, and you want to set them straight, you send them over there. And by the time they come back, trust and believe they're going to be all right. It says here, if he escape with his life, for in that place, no doubt, there is a special power of God. He felt like he had been thrown into a lion's den, a place that you don't come back from. And if you come back, you don't come back the same. That's that is how, like, when you watch some of these movies, right? And they one of these characters is going into like some cave, and this cave is known as a place where people don't return from. It's like the place of no return. And they're just walking in and they're just so afraid, and you're just seeing skeletons, and you're like, yo, like, I see why this is a place where you don't come back from. That level of fear that people don't even want to approach a cave like that, this is what he left with. This is what Achior was trying to get into the head of that general, that, yo, that's a place you don't go to. And you damn sure don't go there trying to threaten them or hurt them, because there is a power over there that will hurt you. And so Heliodorus is saying, he's saying, look, if there's somebody you don't like, you send them there. And if they escape with their life, because I almost didn't, but if they escape with their life, for in that place, no doubt there is an especial power of God. For he that dwelleth in heaven hath his eye on that place, and defendeth it, and he beateth and destroyeth them that come to hurt it. That is the defense right there. You see? And there are those that are trying to come and hurt us, because why was the Lord's eye upon that place? Was it because of the land? No, it was because of the people. Who did the Lord defend? The people. Who called upon the Lord? The people. And for whose sake did the Lord spare Heliodorus' life? The people, right? So when it says that his eye is on that place, the Lord's eye is on that place because of the people. So today, you may say, oh, well, then wouldn't the Lord keep his eye on that land? No, his eye is on where his people are. So when, regardless of where we are scattered, the enemy comes in like a flood to try and harm us, the Lord is going to protect and defend us just as he did back then. Okay, except this is going to be to defend the remnant. Okay, just like he did back then. And so that's pretty much it. I'm going to end it here. This has been The Greatest God Will Be Active once again. And this time, remember, it's going to be a time unlike never before. So all the things that we've read about, all the things we've seen, all the things you've heard about, none of those are going to compare to the level in which the Lord is going to activate once again in this time. Something that is going to be, you can't even speak about it, right? Trying to describe it alone won't even do it justice. But hey, that's what we're about to witness, So, Lord willing, may we be, on the right side of things when the Lord finally, works to work in our time. But with that, Lord willing, that was edifying and exhorting onto the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakha Kodesh. Until next time, Shalom.